my face looks too.
You look fine.
Okay. Good. Oh, you're streaming this live?
Yep, right now. And then we can do all these fun things with it. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait. So hello and welcome. I'm super excited to have you all here today. I am super honored because we have some amazing things coming up. I know that if you've been a follower of mine for a while, you know that I love people who are changing the world. And we're bringing change makers together. And I'm super excited to bring my dear friend, Alina here. Alina is a social impact educator and intellectual property strategist. Her background is in law, graduating Stanford Law with a PhD in copyright law and history, as well as the University of Cambridge in London for her master's and bachelor's in law. Her career path took her to Multimedia Development Corporation as a senior executive advising the Malaysian government on cyber law and intellectual properties matter. She worked as a research assistant at Stanford Law, is now tenured law professor at Mississippi College Law. Today, established businesses and entrepreneurs hire her to reveal the hidden impact in their business and help them bridge the gap between profit goals and social impact mission. Welcome to the show today, Alina.
Hi, Ari. Thanks so much for having me. Thank you.
You have, I always think that people say, oh man, you're such a servant's heart. You do all these amazing things. And I think, yeah, not compared to this woman. This woman's killing it. And she's really brought together so many amazing things and things that I never knew. A lot of us in business, we really do want to help the world be better. Some of our ideas, some of our innovations do that. Some of our IP does that. But truly, does your company give back? And so we're going to really go through a lot of that while we're talking today. And you're going to find out more about the Changemaker Institute and the events that we have coming up and the ways that you can participate and get involved and know about how you can make more of a bigger impact in the world. So I'm excited to dig in. Alina, so tell us, what is the Changemaker Institute?
Okay, so the Changemaker Institute, Erin, is a social enterprise. So what that means is we are set up as a business with the goal of profitability, but also making a social impact. So that's a definition of a social enterprise. We are not a nonprofit, right, which is considered a charity. What we actually do have profit goals, and we are set up as a business. We are incorporated in Delaware as a public benefit corporation. And what that means is that we take into account a multitude of stakeholders. So the focus isn't necessarily on wealth maximization for the shareholders. We take into account a relationship with our partners, our vendors, how we treat our employees, how we treat the environment. We take all of that collectively into account, and those are our stakeholders. And so we are set up as a public benefit corporation. And our goal is to empower businesses to make a positive impact on people and the planet. And so, traditionally, the impact role in any society has been left to governments, right? So governments, they come up with policy, and within the policy, they decide if they want to prioritize the environment or to take care of the people or increase health benefits. And then that's good, but governments don't have an inroad into the market that businesses does. And so that's why we focus on businesses as an agent for change.
I love that. And the secret is there's actually a why behind you creating this. So tell us a little bit more about why, when you think of the Changemaker Institute and all this stuff that you're doing, why did you start it? Because this is what I love.
And that's my favorite question, Erin, and you know that. So I'm an academic. I am trained as an academic. I think like an academic. I write papers and present at academic conferences. And I grew up Catholic, and so my thought about impact also comes from Catholic social justice teachings and all that. But it was I had my daughter in 2015. And one of the things I've always wanted for her was to be able to go to the Pacific and watch the whales, and it's the reality is, I'm not sure if she will still have that when she grows up. So that was one of the things that always stuck to me. But the other thing that also I credit this one incident as the the impetus for the Changemaker Institute was a homily that I heard by a priest in church, where he was talking about the missionary work that he was doing. And he was talking about how poor some people are in the world. And he was talking specifically about Africa. And he said that in some places in Africa, the people live in conditions that are worse than the conditions that we have our pets in. In some places, people are so poor that they have to ration their food out, and the food would be given to the men who would go to the field to work. And women sometimes would stay behind without enough food. And many times the mother would have to say to a daughter that maybe today isn't your turn to eat, because the men would eat first. And when he said that, that changed my entire perspective on what social justice meant and all the academic work I was doing. Because I looked at my daughter and I started crying because I could not imagine ever saying that to her. And I like to credit the priest for, getting me thinking about the change, wanting to make actual change, but also my daughter, because of the world that I want her to grow up in, the world that I want our children to grow up in, And so that's the why, because I think that with my background in intellectual property and my understanding of how businesses can be innovative, I think a lot of innovation for society has to come from business. It has to. And the Changemaker Institute, the sole goal of the Changemaker Institute is to empower businesses to do that. And yeah, so that's the why behind the Changemaker Institute. Yeah, a little girl and a priest that I don't even remember his name.
You never know where you're going to get the inspiration, right? But it's when you have that call to your heart that it's like, there's got to be something more here. And I don't want to stand for this anymore. And I think now more than ever, people are really starting to step into that and understanding how do I want to give back? What are the things I want to stand for? What are the things I don't want to stand for? Right. And really being able to get clear on that. So tell me, what's the mission of the Changemaker Institute?
Yeah, so the primary mission is to empower businesses to make an impact, to influence society, and to make an impact on people and the planet. That's the primary mission. Because businesses can make an impact, but if they don't know how to, that impact could be misdirected. It may not align with their business goals, and they may lose interest or momentum in their impact. They may want to do impact but don't have the right design, or they are not addressing the right issue, or they haven't framed the issue correctly, the social issue correctly to actually have the right impact program. And so we focus primarily on businesses to help them design the right impact program for their business.
And we're talking about social impact. Like we're talking about like things like Tom's, right? Like that's probably the biggest one that came out. They got the most publicity right away. Was if you buy one, we give one, right? And since then, we've had a lot of people going, oh, how do we do that? But no one really knows, right? And then when you're like, where do I search for that? I don't know how to search, give one back. I don't know, right? And you're like, I'm a business. How do I give one? And what if it's intellectual property, or what if it's something that no one else wants? Like, how do you still give back? And I think that a lot of times I know everyone that follows me has such a servant's heart and wants to change the world. But when in business, they don't know that there's actually structures and systems, funding, opportunities that no one ever expected. So tell us a little bit more about like a company like that goes out there and gets all this recognition, like, hey, and it opened up new markets, new audiences, like people, I mean, even if you didn't like to wear Toms, you were buying them because you knew the social impact. So tell businesses how this can help them.
Yeah. So let me backtrack a little bit before we get to how an impact program can help them. But I think the story with Tom's is a great story, because the program that you design, the social impact program that you design to give back to society, has to be well thought out and well executed. So Tom is famous for the buy one, give one model, but it turned out that impact model is problematic in some sense, because when you give a pair of shoes to a poor community, what happened with the Tom model is that a lot of local shoemakers were displaced because Tom had this social impact program, right? So on one hand, they were giving back, but at the same time, and they were trying to alleviate poverty, but at the same time, they were displacing a lot of the local manufacturers, right? And that's why now they've changed their business model, which brings me back to the point I was making earlier, that the social impact program has to be very carefully designed and very carefully thought about, so you don't create
More problems
than you hope to solve. But having said that, I do believe that having a social impact program changes everything about your business. So it changes who you actually talk to, right? So when you actually have a social impact program that's integrated into your business model, the people that you sell to will change naturally, right? Because, like, for example, just with come back to Tom shoes, the people that they market to are going to be people that have this desire to want to help, right?
Yeah.
So the people that you market to would be different, but because the mission aligns with their values, it will also draw them in, and they become more loyal customers, right? They'll be more willing to talk about your brand, right? And as a result, your brand grows, right? So your brand grows, you attract new customers, you open new doors to new markets, but you also have the ability to actually bring in investors that you wouldn't draw in if you were not focused on impact. So I'm talking about the ESG funds, right? The environment, social, and governance funds. And if you hear that, those are the puppies in the background. But if you ESG funds or impact funds, right? Funds that are actually investing in businesses that are making an impact. So not only are they assessing the financial returns from the investment, they are also assessing the social returns, right? That means with your business, how are you affecting your community? Are you alleviating poverty? Are you, creating more jobs? Are you helping marginalized groups? Those social returns are really important to impact investors, right? So you, as a business, you would draw in not just your traditional venture capital or with a really good business model, you will also draw in the ESG funds and the impact funds. If you have a really good business model that has a solid social impact program.
I love that. And what do you think the biggest challenge is with businesses trying to do this kind of impact on the planet?
Yeah, I really think that the most difficult problem is designing the right social impact program. And by right, I mean having the social impact program support your business, right? So it's really important, because when we think about social impact, we always think about it's an afterthought, right? That means we make the money, and then we have this impact program. But done right, the impact program can actually help you make money, right? It can support your business and help you be more profitable if you design it in a way that, elevates your brand, right? Reduce the risk that comes with, all businesses have risk, right? And sometimes social impact programs actually reduce those risks, regulatory risk, environmental. If you cause harm, if you think about that and incorporate that into a social impact program, it reduces the risk there. It helps you attract more talent, right? Your impact program can also help you be more innovative, not just innovative within your company, but also socially innovative. So if you can design your impact program in such a way that it gives you momentum in these areas, then you actually address those challenges. But I think the biggest challenge is to see how that can happen.
And it's after they figure out what of the UN Sustainable Development Goals that they're going after, correct?
Yes. So the SDG, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, if you are tuning in, it's the UNSDGs.org, and you can see the 17 goals. So Erin, that's what Erin is talking about. But the SDGs are basically goals that the UN has set for the global community. We need to get to these goals by 2030 because we just need to create some improvement in the way we are living on the planet today, right? So it's a way to gain some momentum towards making people on the planet better. But with social impact for businesses, we use the SDGs as an impact model, if that makes sense, right? So we can say, well, we're going to have create some impact, right? But how? Where do we even start, right? Impact sounds it's such a huge thing, and it can be intimidating. Yeah, like what do we do, right? So the easiest thing to do is work with something that is already there for you, right? The UN has hired and paid experts to come up with the SDGs and give you metrics, right? This is how you measure momentum towards the SDGs. And any business that wants to do impact can absolutely, I'm 100% sure you can absolutely match it against one of the SDGs. It can be something as obscure as animal rights. You might say, well, animal rights doesn't relate to anything within the SDG, but if you think about it, they actually do, right? Because when you talk about animal rights, it boils down to responsible consumption and production, right? SDG 12, I think. So regardless of your impact mission, you can fit it for sure within one of the SDGs and use that as your impact model template.
I love that, because I think, like you said, impact seems so big. Like, where do I start? And I always felt like the thing that you helped me understand was if you go to those goals and you look, okay, first of all, where do you want to make an impact? For me, like, love the ocean, right? Like dolphin trainer, saved whales. I did manatee rescue. Like, I've been, but like, how do I still keep going back to that when now I live in Idaho? There's no ocean, right? Yeah. So it's finding those things and saying, okay, maybe that's where I want to start. And from there, based on whatever that goal is, then you can start to go, okay, now I need to kind of figure out what kind of model would I need, right? Yep. And that's really what you do, is help them. All right, now you figure out maybe one of those, or maybe as you start talking it out with a client, I know this has probably happened for you, you start talking it out and it sounds like it's poverty, but then it comes to like clean water, right? When we really get down to it, like, no, I really feel that. And what I do know is, if you guys have watched any Shark Tank, if you've watched any pitch competition, the why behind, the why you get up every morning and every night to do this, why you stay up late, why you stay away from your kids doing this work. If you have that big why, it pushes you to do those things. And I think a lot of times that gets overlooked when it comes to something as global impact. Not just, I get up every day because helping people with an amazing message, get their message out in the world, changes the world. That's great, but that doesn't fit on those goals yet, right? Yeah. But if I really sat and said, I want more women at the boardroom table in corporate, now I could have a whole program that's specific to that and a model that works.
Yeah, and not only that, right? You know who you need to partner with to help you achieve your goals, right? You need you know who your stakeholders are going to be. Do you identify the government, right? Or do you identify a nonprofit who can actually help you realize that goal, right? But unless you have that, impact is just this nebulous word. It is. And it's
out there.
Yeah, and it's easy for businesses to and there are many good intention businesses that say we want to do impact, and then they try and they're not able to put it together, and then they fall into this bucket where we call greenwashing, right? You say you're doing impact, but you're not really doing anything to make an impact, and we don't want that either, right? You want your business to actually have an impact.
Yeah, no, I love that. So we're starting we have a kickoff event coming in, and we are talking about October 19th, and the title of the event is called The Social Value of Intellectual Property. Talk a bit about what the attendees can expect from attending this event that's coming up.
Yeah, so it's it runs from 10 to 3 p.m. Central Time. And we have speakers talking about the value of intellectual property. So, usually when we talk about intellectual property, we are either creating trademarks, patents, copyright generally. And we can create any type of trademark, we can create any type of copyright or any kind of patent, but to actually have an impact, you want your intellectual property to have value to society, right? So not just value to you, not just business value to you, which it will have business value to you, because that's how the law is structured, right? It's a monopoly. It gives you exclusive rights, but the content of your pattern really matters, right? What is that pattern? How are you directing that new technology, right? Are you using it to address climate change? Are you using it to create more green energy? So looking at that, or the copyrighted work, right? The movies that you create, the blogs that you create, right? What's in the content, right? What are you talking about, right? And we need to think about that, because the message we provide through our IP and the content of the IP has a much a more profound impact than we realize.
I love that. And so we're going to have this event series. So tell us, what is like the biggest goal behind this big series that we're going to do for the next many months?
Yes. And so, Erin, it's exciting to be working with you on this. The event series starts October, and it runs until April 2024. So we are actually going through the entire 17 SDGs. So the main goal is to get businesses to think about the impact they can make. You know, it comes back down to the fact that businesses, they have the ability to make an impact in no other way that other institutions can, right? The government, they do not have inroads into the market. Nonprofits, they don't have inroads into the market. They don't have inroads into the systems that, if you change, can actually make a really huge impact. But businesses do, right? Businesses hire people. Businesses sell to the market. Businesses use raw materials to come up with new products and services. So if we can get businesses to think about the impact that they can have, and get a discussion going about how to be socially innovative through their business, I think we would really see momentum towards the SDGs. And we are actually, the SDGs, the UN hopes to see some momentum or realization of the SDGs by 2030. So we are in the decade of action. We have to act in this decade in order to see reach those goals. And so, yeah, and there she is, the inspiration behind the Changemaker Institute. Yes.
When we have to think about how we're leaving the world for our kids, right? Like, that's the biggest thing.
Exactly.
So speaking of why this is an important topic, let's go into that question. Why is this such an important topic? And now, I mean, I love that you're saying that in this next decade, like, we're going to be the change makers that change the way that the world is seen and how we do business, how we do things, you know, cleaning up things. Like, I feel like there's so many generations before us that didn't know how. Now we have the technology and we have the innovative ideas. Now it's time to act and do that. So why do you think this is so important now?
You know, I think that we are in a pivotal moment, right? Like, when was it? I think it was earlier this year where the department. Can you let mommy have this conversation with Ms. Erin? I want to say something. Okay, say hi and okay. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for showing your beautiful face and reminding us why we're changing the world.
I'm watching you.
They're always watching us, aren't they? Talking about making a change in the planet.
Oh yeah, so you were asking why is it so important now? I'm trying to remember. I think it was we are in code red in terms of the environment, right? Who was it who released that report? I'm blanking out, but a report was released recently that we are in code red in where we are with the environment. That we are not going to sustain the environment as it is, living the way we are today, right? And we have to change something to turn that around. We have to.
Yeah.
And so we can have laws to try to make change, right? We can pass laws that say reduce emission rates, and we can regulate and have more regulations, right? But I feel the impact isn't going to be as great as empowering people to make the change themselves, right? So I think we are in a pivotal moment. We've just come out of COVID, and COVID reset a lot of things for a lot of people, right? So people are rethinking how they work, right? People are rethinking their expectations. People are rethinking a lot of things. And so I think now is the pivotal moment to actually act, to turn around the trajectory on which we are on, right? Yeah, so that's why I think it's so important to actually address the issue now, than to wait. I mean, 2 years can make a huge difference.
I mean, it did with COVID. I mean, everybody's reimagining work. Everyone's imagining. I remember my friend who worked for Boeing, they were like, everyone's been working home for like 6-8 months now. And we're saving money on electricity. We're saving money on and then the emissions and the air and all this. Like, wait a minute, we could do this, right? Like, we've been doing it and we've been forced to. So it can really reimagine a lot of things and how we operate on the planet.
Yeah, with COVID, where everything was shut down, a lot of the canals in Venice, right? A lot of the animals came back to it, right? And it used to be when it was busy, there was nothing in it, right? Mm-hmm. And when we stopped that, there were a lot of, I mean, it was just brimming with marine life.
Yeah.
Right? So we need to think about things like that and realize that if there's any change that's going to happen, it's the onus is on us, right? It's not. We need to stop putting pushing the responsibility or to the government, right, or to nonprofits going to take care of it, or some wealthy individual, Melinda Gates, right, is going to take care of it. It's not that, right? It's what can we do as a business, right? If every individual business can play a pivotal role.
I love that. So who should attend this event and tell us why?
Yeah, so I think businesses should attend. It's primarily targeted as businesses, for businesses. Businesses that consider themselves social enterprises, social entrepreneurs, businesses that are owned by people who want to give back or create a change, right? People that are studying systems, right, and figuring out why we have the problems we have, right, and how to change the systems. So those are the people that I think should attend this conference. Having said that, being an academic, I would love to attract the academics as well. I think academics can really benefit in terms of their research direction by understanding what businesses go through. So academics, policymakers, we would hope to draw people in that field in as well.
I love that. And I think it's true. I think a lot of times you have people in academics that don't understand what happens inside the business, right? Because they're in their own structural system of academia. But then, and also the same with businesses. The only time they think of research, they think of research and development on new products and innovations and things like that. But if you can bring them both together, there's actually a beautiful thing that can come together, because then you're seeing things from two different sides. You're seeing, oh, how do we monetize this? And how do we make this a big thing? And we can get funding for it. And the academics are like, let me show you some research on what needs to be installed and how it needs to work and that. And so it gives you a little push and pull, but it's so beautiful how they can come together and be in the same room, sitting across the table and go, wow, I never thought of it like that. But what if we did it like this? And it really will help the conversation, and maybe bringing these people to the same table will actually change the planet faster, because you're not keeping them in two separate silos.
Exactly. I think that conversation is a really important conversation to have. That dialogue between academia and business. A lot of models in academia can actually benefit businesses, right? If you need structure, models, if you need to think about how to change systems, a lot of the models in academia can actually change that. But I also think that the models that are being designed in academia can benefit by knowing what businesses are going through, right? If they know the problem, then they can tailor the solutions to the problem, as opposed to working with the solution without really knowing what the problem is.
Right. Well, what will the people learn attending this?
They will learn that it's important to see to learn to take the responsibility to actually create change, and learn how to create change. The most effective change actually happens when you change systems. So if you know how to work with systems and change systems, that's the most profound way to actually make change. In systems, the primary way in which systems operate to create problems. And if you change those systems, you can actually make an impact. Laws, right? So laws sometimes can be problematic. Architecture, right? How architecture is structured. Markets, especially businesses, you can change market structures and norms, right? How people think, how people behave, how people react in society. If you can change any one of these things, laws, architecture, systems, and laws, architecture, norms, and markets, you can actually make an impact. And I would want people to take that away from these events, right? How do we actually change these things to have an impact? And then because we are focused on businesses in the events, it's really how do we change market structures, right? How do we think about the market, and how do we change structures within the market, right? Who do you employ? What kind of policies do you have for your workers, right? Who do you partner with? Who are your vendors? If we can think about all those decisions as systems, we can actually make a lot of change. So that's what people will take away from the events.
Systemic change.
Systemic change, exactly.
And anyone who's like, I hate the system, like, you need to be here, because if you want to be a part of the solution to what's happening systemically across the planet, this will be the events you'll want to attend and see, how can I help? How can I participate? How can I show up? How can I get involved? And how can I make that difference? And inviting friends that also feel the same way. I think so many more people on the planet right now want systemic change. There's so many things that are broken, systems that are broken, that they just want to help, but they don't know how. But here you're going to dive deep into all the different topics, all the different goals, figuring out each one, bringing in speakers that speak to that goal, that have had some success in it and are doing things differently. And I think that even just to be a participant, to see how people are changing the world, is going to be like hope inspiring, right? It's going to bring that up, like, man, there are people making a difference, and I think if that's ever been a call to your heart, these are the events to show up for. There's also going to be like networking and workshops, right? So give us a little bit of a rundown on kind of like, I know we're talking big picture here, but there's going to be more than just these one time a month events that are focused on a certain goal and things like that. Tell us more how we can be participants in that stuff.
Yep. So by participating in one event, so it's a series of events, right? But with one event, when you participate in one event, you get to attend the sessions, the actual sessions that are happening within that event, the day of the event. But then also the space is open for a month. So we're hosting the series on AirMeet, which is almost like a space. It's not like Zoom where the meeting ends and Zoom closes, right? AirMeet is a space that stays open. So you even if you don't make it to all the live events, the recordings will actually be available on AirMeet. So it's not like you're going to get an email. You come to the space again and then you get to watch the videos. But that space remains open for a month. And then within that month, we will have networking events. We will have workshops. So following the October event, we will have 2 networking events. And then we will also have 2 workshops that I will host on intellectual property, thinking about intellectual property and maximizing both the economic value and the social value of your intellectual property. So that's a snapshot of what's going to happen for the October event. And then with the rest of the events, it's the same it's the same model, right? You attend one event and then the space remains open for 1 month. You can come back and watch the recordings as many times as you want. I'm not sure whether you can download the recordings. I need to check, but I know for a fact that you can watch the recordings, and we will have events throughout the month as well.
I love that. So if this is like already percolating, you're like, oh man, this sounds so amazing. I don't know how I'd fit. I don't know if I fit. What do I need? Show up. Come and show up, be a part of this, because this is, like we said, the decade of change makers, right? And so, and taking action. And so if this is some kind of call to your heart, you're going to know it, and you should just show up, get registered, find out more. If you've ever thought about giving back, just show up and find out more. Like, that could be the simplest thing. The great part is, at the end of all of this, you have access also to Alina and I. If your company is thinking it wants to do this and you're like, but where do I get started? Well, we've got that for you too. We'll be able to take you on a call and walk you through what kind of, like, get out your ideas, brainstorming out your ideas, coming to us, figuring out how you can create that system and that model inside of your company, as well as then I will help you message it so that you can expand that and get PR for it and all the things that would actually help drive the business as well and open new markets for you. If you're considering expanding your marketplace and the markets that you serve, this is a great opportunity on top of changing the planet. Like, who could say no to that?
Yeah, and I want to add something about PR as well that I should have said earlier. When you position your business as a social impact business, your PR changes as well. What you say to your market, the message that you put out to your employees, everything changes. Patagonia is a perfect example, right? When you look at Patagonia's message to their customers, it's not just about buying a new sweatshirt, right? It's about buying a new sweatshirt, but at the same time, this is what's happening for the environment, right? Your entire message changes as well. So if that's something you're interested in, be excited that I firmly believe that an impact mission changes everything about your business.
That's so true. Well, thank you so much for being here. You guys will have the link in here, so don't forget to get registered so that you can participate and see what this is all about. See where your heart drives you, what that mission and vision is for you as well. And let's leave the planet a little bit better than we found it. Thank you so much for all being here. I can't wait to see you on our events.